Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Ephrata Community Church weekly podcast, a conversation with our pastors and leaders meant to continue encouraging you to know God, know freedom, know purpose, and make a difference.
Hey, Ephrata Community Church, great to be with you as we are enjoying midsummers. It's been a great summer, I think. This Esther series has been awesome.
It sure has.
Is it turning out like you were hoping for?
Actually, better than what I hoped for. That's generally what God does. It generally does more. But as I mentioned this past weekend, the 4 weeks of framing the way that you think about the activity of the Lord in our lives was just perfect. Yeah. So I'm really looking into the second half of getting into the practical. How do we take a look?
Yeah, I like the way you opened this week. And by the way, it was part 1 of 2 weeks on particularly remembering, reflecting, recording what God's done. But you opened with a quick summary. You grabbed 4 statements from the 4 messages. Unbelief grows where God goes unrecognized. Someone must be looking out for you.
Yep.
That guy that
That's
said
great.
that to Dwight, isn't that a great story? And Dan was reminded us, it's easy to see God in the rear view, but there is power when you see him in the real time.
Yep.
And then, of course, God throttles his sovereignty for relationship's sake, which I've had so much feedback from people on. It's been great. But the verse you chose was that these days should be remembered, nor should the commemoration of these days cease. Yeah. Felt something about remembrance. Tell us more. I'll
tell you what, and it actually wasn't anything new coming out of the book of Esther. It's something you see in Scripture, especially through the Old Testament.
You listed a bunch of them. Yeah.
Well, that's a mere fraction of all the times where there's some sort of standing stone or some sort of event that God takes to encourage people to remember. And why is that? Like, you would think if you were being asked to remember something for the future, that's one thing, but he's actually asking us to intentionally remember things that have been there in the past. And as a pastor, I repeatedly see people go through challenges that they faced something similar before. And you almost need to remind them. Now, didn't God do a great work when you walked this path before? Yeah, that's right, he did. But they need to be reminded of that. But I don't know that we need others to remind us. I mean, sometimes we do. But if we can learn to capture and grow in our awareness of the Lord and what he has done, man, it helps us face things in the future.
Man. And I got to thinking, what do I believe are the side benefits of remembering well, right? One of them is it gets you through thin times you might currently be in. But the other one, I reminded myself after hearing the teaching, just reflecting on it, is I'm called to remember because the next thing he's going to ask me to do is likely going to require another level of faith, right?
Exactly.
And if I'm just trying to build on finding new faith for something and I've not drawn on the previous faith deposit that I already walked in, it's going to be too big of a leap, right? I'm going to have to be able to sit and say, because I just remember in my own life when I was a missionary in Youth with a Mission, before I got married, I was believing God for about $150 a month. I was living on like $150 a month. I got married. I'm like, I got to find $1,000 a month. Then a couple of years later, I realized I'm running a YWAM school with a budget of $200,000 a month. And I kept looking at my life and the Lord, just because he kept meeting me, I just realized, oh my word, I'm at another level of trust in him.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I just think it's not just part of getting through thin times. It's actually what the Lord wants to keep scaling his kingdom, right? It's advancing. And so,
yeah, that's a great story. And it would be similar with my provision story. Like before the pumpkin story, which came to a climax, and which is a great story to tell. But long before that, there were opportunities of, God's indicators of good things that he was finding a way and providing for me, which built a foundation. With that story, I needed to trust him for family financial provision with no other options. But I didn't start there.
That's right.
There were some things that happened before that, but then even after that. So then, a couple of years after that, I'm sitting on an elder team here at Ephrata Community Church, believing God for $3 million to build our first building. Well, which now we would think, okay, we can do that. Then that was not.
Oh no,
that was a stretch. It was a big stretch.
Yep.
You look at that number, you think, is that even possible to actually accomplish that?
But you have a pumpkin story to look at.
I got a pumpkin story to look back on. And then when we built this building, that's a bigger number.
That's right.
And we had to look at back through like the provision stories all along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to remember to sit down on that more, that God, when he's calling us to remember, is as much calling us, I think, to intimacy. Like, in other words, when I look at my relationship with Rachel, it's as I look back and remember the pieces that it's a grown intimacy too. It's not just grown faith for accomplishing kingdom purposes. But if you want to release intimacy in your walk with God, I'm looking at Randy Clark's book right now on intimacy, because I thought if I'm prepping to go to Brazil, where I think I'm going to see more and power, I also want to be like, Lord, what's more intimacy with you look like? And that's another thing your message triggered in me was like, Jim, if you have any sense of stalled intimacy with the Lord, one of the first places is let's just go back and see where he whispered your name or remind you of your sonship or remind you he loved you for who you were and not for what you'd become, right? That's another part to remember, and is just flat out the foundations for intimacy.
Yeah. Would you think it'd be, I mean, you have a little boy, Renner.
Yeah, good man.
Not quite 2 years old, year and a half. 18 months. So I realize he's not talking to you yet, but I can imagine him at being 5 years of age.
Oh.
And he's questioning about whether you're going to care for him. Meanwhile, you're as a dad thinking, like, man, I got 5 years of history of you not being able to worry about anything. I've provided for you every step of the way. I care for you in all things. And wouldn't that be dishonoring as a father to have your child question something which is just so natural for you to do? So when we question the Lord, like we don't even honor him enough to capture what he's doing in order for us to grow in awareness and intimacy and the knowledge of the Lord, and then to come to those crisis moments where I need direction to know how I seek medical care or freedom in a certain area. And we've not treasured the things from the past. And so we're going to God with almost like fresh doubt. And what, I don't want to call it an insult, maybe a dishonor of the very person of God when we don't take the time to treasure and then just have confidence in the very nature and character of God.
He deserves to be trusted. Matter of fact, I want to share this wisely, but not long ago, I was meeting with someone, just counseling, pastoral counseling, and we stumbled upon the fact that this person has a history of being insatiable. That's such a word we don't use often. It means the inability to get saturated, to be able to hold what previously happened.
I see, sure.
So, a sponge gets saturated, therefore it's full, right? And this person was just realizing, like, because I've known him long enough where I'm like, man, I feel like we're talking about the same thing that we've been talking about for 3 years. And it was just the Lord leading us into this understanding of this, carrying this insatiableness, whereas remembering makes you satiable, meaning you can get further saturated because you're being given more and it's building on what you were previously given, right? And that's what I long for us, is that the Lord doesn't have to always be reinventing his revelation for us, or his, you need a whole new filling. It's like, no, I want to saturate you, and so that the water table's high when I give you a little more, you get overflow.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think of Mary in Luke chapter 2, where she simply says, it says she treasured these things in her heart. And she didn't understand what was being said by Simeon in the temple, like all the stuff that was happening, but she just treasured them in her heart. She kept them. I wonder sometimes if people, like personalities, would trend towards either not remembering or remembering. I'm not the most sentimental person in the world, so I tend to be forward-looking in what's next.
Yeah, me too.
So for me, it's a little bit more of I discipline myself to look back. I know that in order to go forward, you actually need to look back and be aware and actually build those foundations intentionally. But some people may be more trending, more moving, more postured towards looking forward and not looking back. And so for some, it's more of a discipline than for others.
It is. I think it's right. I think, for some people, I think looking back has enough trauma in it. They've trained themselves not to look back. And I know when I'm around these types, because they'll use phrases like, it's always about what's going to be happening next. It's almost like I'm not even pausing long enough for the chance of memories to come back to me. So we do want to be sensitive to that some of us carry complex backstories that actually traumatize. But I'm with you on the fact that I don't look back until the Lord is showing me something new he wants to do, and I know I need to build on the faith for it. Then I'm like, I need to sit and remember all he did in this area before. And so I oftentimes, mine's a hearkening back for the new thing he wants to do, which is why I've been reflecting on it as a way of also building intimacy, not just mission. Because I'm like, Lord, even before you show me something new you want to do or advance for the kingdom, show me your love for me and draw from what you've deposited in me. Because like you said, if Renner's demanded a new level of love from me, because he can't hold there's a crack in the cup that holds love inside of him.
Right.
You're right. One day I'm going to sit and go, son, there's a crack in the cup that holds love inside of you because I can't be doing more.
Yes.
It's here. And I think that is God's image. So when you say, man, isn't it a little bit of an insult to God? I think we all know that God is such a father. He doesn't receive an insult, but he does sit. I think he sits there and he goes,
come on, buddy.
man, come on.
You know better.
Can I fix that crack?
That's right.
Can we talk about the crack? Hey, that's awesome, man. Anyway, that's just good stuff. So you got another, that was part one.
That was part one.
What are you thinking of
doing?
doing?
So this weekend, there's one very special thing that I'm not even going to talk about.
Ooh.
That we're going to do. We're going to be going a little bit Hebrew this weekend. So we're going to actually step into a Hebrew tradition that goes along with the book of Esther. Yeah. And you have to show up to find out what that is.
Oh, that's right. You did tell me.
I did, so keep it a secret.
I am going to sit on that. Yeah. Hey, so a couple other things I want to highlight. I mean, I know we have a few minutes left here, and I think it's important. The fall is coming up, and there's something you're going to hear a lot about. We call it our take one step. We believe that growth is normal. Matter of fact, change is normal, and growth, therefore, is normal. So we are huge into taking one step. And I love something Matt Soares today said when he was presenting it to all the staff. He goes, I am thrilled if even people don't take a step to do one of our discipleship offerings or a connect group. He goes, even if the Lord's saying to them, go talk to your son you're estranged with. That is taken one step, and we know what God does with that. And you amplify that across the community, and we become changers of this region, right?
Yeah,
so we just want to let you know that over the next few weeks, we encourage you to be tuned in to the various offerings we have coming up this fall. There's just a lot of excitement. A big one, though, let's spend a little more time on the All of God night. I want to make sure everyone knows, because there are 200 seats left, if I remember correctly. Right. So if you're catching this, you better move quick.
That's right. Do not wait. There's two things I ask you not to do. This past weekend, do not wait to register for the All of God night, September 20th. You can do it on the website. That's right. And do not register unless you're committed to be there. Yeah. So you don't want to take up a seat that's not going to be occupied. The two things that we do ask you to do, of course, we've provided about 550, maybe a little bit more, of the All of God books, which is just an opportunity for us to sit together and both personally and corporately sit in the awe and wonder of the Lord in a place of heart preparation to receive. And then we get a chance to welcome John Bevere with us on September 20th. That's right. So it is getting full. So, I mean, I will go ahead and register as quickly as you can. If we do get full, I'm going to ask the Bevere ministry if we could do another meeting. Yeah. So that's possible, but don't count on that.
Yeah, that's right. So activate. And also we encourage you. Today marks the day that if you start reading, all 42 readings can take place just before that event. So grab the All of God book. If not, let us know and we'll make sure you get one. Hey, one other thing I want to do before we leave. I've been trying to highlight different things in our church rhythm that some may or may not be familiar with, and just saying, hey, first Tuesday service that we hold as a church, like it's tonight.
It is tonight, yes.
So I just want to ask everyone. I just want to ask you, like, that thing has gone through a lot of iterations. If you were a congregant or you were attendee listening to this, how would we elevator pitch the first Tuesday night?
Yeah, well, the first Tuesday night is a barely planned event.
I like it. Yeah, that the Spirit often tends to build.
Have plans. It doesn't let us know ahead of time.
That's right. That's the best way to.
But we just kind of walk into it with a posture of, hey, we're just going to worship the Lord and see what He does. Yeah. Over the course of the next number of months, I think actually beginning this evening, we'll be focusing on the presence of the Lord. And tonight what we're going to do is focus on the awe and wonder of the Lord.
Oh, man.
And so it's just going to simply be, music associated with that, as well as even just scripture that we're going to read, and we just want to honor Him for who He is.
Man, yeah. So if you're catching this, I don't know if this will even get out today, but we just want you to know in the future, first Tuesday, meets in Gateway. And it often has this kind of thing. The Spirit builds the agenda, because we know that even some people in our churches or in our services go, "Can we be a little more available to what the Spirit's doing?" We're like, first of all, I think we are pretty available. But secondly, this service in particular, we arrive with a kind of availability, and it's kind of fun, right?
Yep, it sure is.
Big time. All right, hey, we deeply appreciate you, and we trust that you have a great week. Thanks for spending a little time with us. Take care.
Thanks, Jim.
Hey, thanks again for joining us today. We hope that you've been encouraged by listening. You can listen to previous episodes, find additional resources, and of course, learn more about us at EphphatahCommunityChurch.com.